Billy Napier just got fired by the Florida Gators. And now there are 9 jobs open in college football. We got UCLA, we got Penn State, Virginia Tech, Oklahoma State, Stanford, Oregon State, UAB, Colorado State. We are also awaiting what's going to happen with Florida State because their administration just spoke. Wisconsin's administration just spoke. We got to see what Auburn is going to do as well. We told you guys before that this was going to be the craziest offseason in college football history. One of the things that keeps getting brought up, and I think that it is obvious to everybody that's paying attention, the national media has put out a message that the players are ruining college football, that they're getting greedy, they're getting paid, but we're paying 50, 60, $70 million buyouts and then having to hire other coaches. So how is there not enough money for women's sports and Olympic sports? This is spurred from a conversation that I had with my wife. She said, and she's a UCLA grad, and she's like, I don't understand how if you failed at your job, how do you get this golden parachute on the back end and there's no like you ruined the program or you lost or whatever it is the circumstances are. And then you get this golden parachute. So it is the market that drives this. Let's say that you hire a coach. Let's say you're UCLA and you decide to give Tim Skipper the job. It's going to cost you probably $4 or $5 million to hire him. But then what happens if he pulls a Curt Cignetti, wins 10 games, and then is hot the next year? Then all of a sudden, he's going to be due a raise because he's no longer in the market value. And then if other teams are trying to steal him, now he has negotiating favorable terms with the university. I got to pay you $50 million if I fire you, or 20, 30, 21 in Billy Napier's case. But if I just leave of my own free will and take another job, I only owe you, in Brian Kelly's case at LSU, $1 million, $2 million, in other cases, $5 million, $8 million. It doesn't make a lot of sense. But this is the market and where it is. So I don't have a fix for it at this point in time. However, aside from collusion, which is 100% wrong, because the market is going to bear what it bears. So, but there has to be some sort of tenable solution to this, because we keep trying to figure out solutions to the college players being paid and all of that. So Billy Napier gets fired at Florida, $21 million buyout. He's due 50% of that within 30 days. And then the rest of it is spread out in annual payments. I think it's $2.5 million annual payment. But this is a situation at Florida where this has been untenable. This has been a toxic relationship between the fans and the head coach and their expectations for a long time. A lot of these blue blood programs and big name programs, whether it's Penn State, Florida, we can just take anybody's coach because our name is bigger, our brand is bigger, and you can win a national championship here and you can't do it at other places. Indiana's Curt Cignetti just turned Penn State down. We don't know if he would have stayed or left depending on what the terms were. But still, that's an indictment on where we are in college football right now. And I mean that in the most positive way possible, because Curt Cignetti believes he can win a national championship at Indiana. There's never, that is like the Vanderbilt of the Big Ten. There has never been anybody that ever believed that you could win that sort of way at Indiana. And now at Florida, they're going to be looking for a head coach. So the question is, what should they be looking for? Because everybody, that the talent pool in terms of established head coaches that you can actually steal is small when you start throwing out names like Urban Meyer. When you start trying to get Nick Saban to come out of retirement, there are plenty of good coaches available. However, there are very few coaches available where you can actually win the press conference. But the point is not to win the press conference. It is to win on the football field and to provide consistency, stability for your program. And that's the biggest issue right now, is that players and the fans and the administration, all of their expectations are in the wrong place. You got Florida and Penn State as the 2 top jobs available. Marcus Freeman's name is being thrown around. You're not going to get Marcus Freeman at either one of those places. So you might as well stop asking. So what should Florida be looking for? Florida has been scrambling since they fired Dan Mullen. Hey, they had one bad year and they was like, Dan, you got to get up out of here. And now they would wish for the days of Dan Mullen back with not going to 9 conference games. That is more losses, and people have to understand that there's a different appetite for losses at this point in time, and fans have to get out of that old brain and get adjusted to the new world order of college football, which is you are going to lose football games. There is going to be rare exceptions where you make it through unscathed, and just because you make it through your regular season unscathed, because you're like Texas A&M where you won the schedule roulette where you haven't played any quality SEC teams yet, or Missouri outside of Alabama. Sometimes you win the schedule roulette where Texas is. Sometimes your schedule looks like South Carolina's. Florida has available to it their first choice. Everybody wants to win the press conference with Lane Kiffin. If you can't get Lane Kiffin, then where do you pivot to? The next name on the list is Jedd Fisch and all of that. But I would argue that your better solution is go get John Summerall from Tulane. But then some people aren't going to have an appetite for that because they're going to say, well, we just tried, a G6 coach in Napier coming from Louisiana. But that doesn't mean that you have the wrong idea. Just means that it didn't work out in that situation. Another option is you can either go the James Franklin route. He may not win a national championship, but now you have gotten back to 9-3, potentially 10-2 every year. And then you're going to be in contention to get into the tournament. And then you can hope that a guy like James Franklin can change his ways and has figured out like, oh, I need to be a little more aggressive. I've been on defense too much. Let's go be offensive and let's go be aggressive. Because James Franklin's biggest crime is he hasn't developed quarterbacks and he has not hired good coordinators on the offensive side of the ball. So maybe he gets an advisor, somebody to help him out to hire there and not put his thumb on the offense, say, offensive coordinator, you go do your thing. But the other names that I keep hearing thrown out, and these honestly make no sense to me because some of the best coaches available right now are actually coaching at their alma maters. And you aren't going to be able to pull Clark Lee from Vanderbilt. And if you can pull him from Vanderbilt, that's going to create a ripple effect because now it's like, bro, you sold all of us players because now it creates a little bit of doubt in the back of their mind about the message because you have sold everybody on that we can win the SEC at Vanderbilt. So then why are you bailing to Florida? You see what I'm saying? And a lot of these coaches that I've talked to, especially the younger ones, they see how people job hopped for years and it didn't work out for them. And they're like, yo, I got sway with the administration. I can press for more resources. I can do all of these things and actually get them. So Clark Lee, I don't believe he's going to be willing to leave Vanderbilt. You got Brent Key. He's a Georgia Tech alum. Do you think that this dude is wearing them type of shades and gold chains is going to work out in Penn State? That ain't really Penn State swag. He is Georgia Tech through and through. He got his team in the top 10. So if he's like, oh, if I can step up recruiting a little bit, we going to have a shot. So why would he leave? And then you got Kenny Dillingham at Arizona State. Oh, maybe we can get Kenny. They just beat Texas Tech. They were in the college football playoff last year. Well, Kenny Dillingham, he grew up going to Arizona State games. He lives on the same street as his parents. His sister lives on the next street over. You think he's going to pick up and leave and go to Florida or Virginia Tech? Highly doubt it. You got Jeff Brohm over there at Louisville. Why would he leave Louisville if they are going to invest the resources to continue to get his roster better? They just beat Miami, and this man has a consistent record of beating top-tier teams. So why does he need more? And he's at his alma mater. Those things matter to people. Like, it's different if you get the job somewhere else first, like Dabo Swinney, who's an Alabama guy. He got the Clemson job first and then built that up, and Alabama never came open. Why am I going to just up and just leave just because Alabama's open? He's now a Clemson guy. Now, granted, him and Clemson ain't really at odds right now, so something could maneuver there, but highly doubt it. Kalani Sitake at BYU, doing a great job. He's a BYU alum. He's a poly guy. You think he's going to leave the state of Utah? It's highly unlikely. So y'all can keep wishing for the Dan Lannings or the Marcus Freemans, or go get your own Dan Lanning and Marcus Freeman, because those guys exist in college football right now. They are on somebody's staff. They are somebody's offensive coordinator. They are somebody's defensive coordinator right now. Who is the next Marcus Freeman or the next Dan Lanning? So instead of trying to steal that one, go get yours at a cheaper price. Go get yours at a low cost proposition. That makes way more sense than just trying to go be Mr. Steal your coach. Because just because it worked out in one situation doesn't mean it worked out at another one. And you want somebody who's going to be committed to stay. Florida State's administration just came out and they put out a statement that said that they are backing Mike Norvell there and that they're going to evaluate things at the end of the season, because the reports are that he's due a $55 million buyout. Plus you got assistant coach buyouts, and then you got to hire the new coach and pay the buyout for the school that he came from and pay him. You're well over $100 million. So if I were Florida State, I believe that this is a prudent decision, because you actually have to exhaust every single option before paying these buyouts. I know fans are like, fire the guy, fire the guy. Don't work like that. These are not NFL billionaire owners and dropping a $20 million check to get rid of a coach who's not making nearly as much as college football coaches are. It don't make as much sense, because where's the money coming from? If you're Florida State, you got to figure out how to stabilize the floor. So I believe that there are two scenarios at play. Number one, James Franklin is the perfect guy to hire at Florida State. And mind you, I'm the same person who criticized or critiqued James Franklin on game day. I said he looked like a politician. He always says the perfect thing. I want to know who James Franklin really is, because Florida State's floor, since Jimbo Fisher, checked out of there. So now you got to find where your floor is. And James Franklin is a floor raiser. He may not necessarily give you the national championship, but he's a floor raiser, and you can hire him on a short-term basis. No more than a 5-year contract, around $30 million. You're at least going to get 2-3 years into it. So even if you do have to pay a buyout, it ain't going to be too aggressive. That's what I would do if I were Florida State. I got to get my floor higher, because all of this swinging in the transfer portal, 23 transfers, 30 transfers, this and that ain't it. Mike Norvell at this point in time, and he did it after this 2-10 season, because when they went 13-0, it was transfer portal heavy. It worked out. Next year, he tries to do the same thing. It ain't going to work out every single year. And then this year, he's panicking because he knows he just got an extension. There's a lot of money on the table. There's a lot of pressure, and he wants to win. So instead of going back to the drawing board, because people feel like that there is such a small amount of time to get it right, instead of just pouring into high school recruiting and then saying, look, yeah, we might struggle a little bit, but we got to get our culture right. And it is hard to do that with that many transfers. So that's what Florida State is doing. Now, the decision to wait till the end of the season, it's going to put Florida State behind the 8 ball if they do decide to get rid of him at some point in time, because everybody else is going to have had a head start on getting the candidates that you believe that you want. And now with so many jobs open, this pool is going to get thin. So they got Wake Forest, then they're at Clemson, Virginia Tech, NC State, and at Florida. There's a world, because they just lost at Stanford. There's a world where they finish out the season 0-5. They only won 2 games last year. Where they finish out the last 5 games 0-5, which would mean they would have lost 9 consecutive games after beating Alabama, East Texas A&M, and Kent State. This is not a good situation. And if you are Mike Norvell, you got to just strip it down. I would come out in the press conference and I would say, listen, we are starting from scratch. We got a new philosophy. I would figure out what that is. I would lay out the plan for the fans the way the administration can hear. And then that might buy you another year to be able to execute said plan. And you can't go trying to payday loan it in the transfer portal. You do have to use the transfer portal, but you can't payday loan that thing where you're trying to fill an entire roster of transfer guys. That's not going to solve the situation. Now let's get to the Penn State hire. I have said from the beginning Penn State needs to hire Fran Brown from Syracuse. Full stop. Or you got to hire Brian Hartline. Those are your two options. Why on earth would you be considering anything else aside from you are determined to win the press conference? Don't be determined to win the press conference. Find a great coach. Oh, well, but Syracuse isn't winning right now. The dude got Steve Angeli, was winning again this season after taking Ohio State's the quarterback they threw in the trash and winning 10 games last year. And he was winning this year. Quarterback gets hurt. It ain't really, it's hard. And you know that he has the energy and audacity to recruit at a high level at Penn State, and you are going to get good offenses. And the man has shown a propensity to be able to win big games and not be timid in those moments. That's the answer to your question. Or you go hire Brian Hartline from Ohio State. That makes sense. That's a big time job. He may be willing to stay there for quite some time because you finally gave him an opportunity. Now, granted, he may leave if Ohio State comes open, but that's a whole different story. All right, the next job that we're going to talk about is the Wisconsin job. Because Wisconsin came out and they gave Luke Fickell a vote of confidence. They were like, he's our guy. We're not going to spend this money to fire him. We're actually instead going to pour resources into NIL and the transfer portal and make sure that we can pay players. So basically what you're saying is that you had handicapped this man and hamstrung him and didn't give him the resources to be able to win. And then you can't get mad at the product on the field. And it's not that, like, you can't argue with Luke Fickell's history. He didn't forget how to be a good head coach. When there's a talent deficiency and you're playing against Ohio State, you're playing against Oregon this week, you're playing against all of these teams, and your roster ain't like the other, and you have quarterback injuries, you're going to fail, you are going to lose. That's just the reality of the situation. So I know that fans are going to be like, just fire the guy. Just like being in a relationship. So I've been in therapy before, been married a long time. Therapist says that your problems are portable, that the same issues that you have with this partner are probably on some level the same issues that you have with another partner prior to that, and it'll be the same thing with the next partner. If you don't fix what's going on in here, you got to fix yourself first. And that's what Wisconsin is doing, and I appreciate that. So before you go fire a proven head coach who's a winner, he's done it for a long time with less resources at Cincinnati and everything else, took them to the college football playoff. Before you do that, you got to give them the actual tools. It's like asking somebody to build a house and not giving them nails. Well, give him the proper resources and then see if he can build the house. If he can't build the house, then it's a results-based business. Gotta go. Just is what it is. Now let's look at the category of like the Virginia Tech, Oklahoma State, Arkansas job. This is where people have linked Rhett Lashley at SMU. I'm not sure why, if you're Rhett Lashley at SMU, that you leave to go to Arkansas, aside from having ties to the state. Same thing with John Summerall at Tulane. If there are other jobs available, why are we doing this? We're just job hopping to just be job hopping. If you're John Summerall at Tulane, why would you leave for Arkansas when you could actually just wait and stay there and keep winning and do your thing at Tulane until the job that you really want, becomes available and you are the shoe-in guy for it? That's the prudent decision. I know we all think that like the bigger, better dealing, it rarely works out for people. And it almost never works out in the long term. When anytime a bigger, better deal that looks like it's better, you jump on it, that ain't it. Because when you're trying to sell parents on loyalty and all of this stuff and buying into the program and everything else, and they know that you might just up and bounce, that's not going to work. Look at Alex Golish at USF. He came out and said, was like, yo, the only job I've ever chased is the USF job. Yes, opportunities are going to come. I love it here. I don't know. Like, just be honest and tell the truth. And people aren't going to be mad at you leaving USF and going to Auburn. Nobody's going to fault that, but people are going to look at you weird if you leave Notre Dame and go to LSU. Because Brian Kelly, bigger, better deal, Notre Dame. And now Notre Dame's in a better spot with Marcus Freeman, and LSU. I mean, they would have been better off keeping Ed Orgeron at this point in time. The only thing that you've gotten out of it since he's been there is a Heisman Trophy, and that's it. That's it. You haven't even, I don't even think they played the SEC champion. No, they haven't played the SEC championship game, haven't made the playoff, none of it. So what are we doing? And so it is hard for Brian Kelly to sell people on loyalty, on buying into the program 100%, because you know he ain't 100% bought into the program. He wasn't 100% bought into Notre Dame. There's still a 1% thing because he left Notre Dame after going to a national championship and he got beat up by Alabama. And instead of saying, all right, let me do some things to fix it, let me recruit better, he's like, I can't win here. Look at Scott Frost. Scott Frost was at Oregon as their offensive coordinator, was like, oh, you can't recruit top guys here. I'm going to leave. He probably would have been the next head coach. Goes down to USF, does a great job, gets the Nebraska job, and then he's like, oh, well, listen, I took the wrong job. Nah. It's not. When you try to bigger, better deal people, it is not the move. Now, granted, there are some times where it's not a bigger, better deal when it is something that you either hoped for, dreamed for, and that, just makes sense for you and your family. People can understand that. They just can't understand you leaving other people high and dry. So Virginia Tech, Oklahoma State, Arkansas type jobs. I believe that Oklahoma State needs to press to get Will Stein from Oregon. That's your guy. That's the guy you need to hone in on because he's a Texas guy, recruiting roots there. He will stay for a long time if you resource him. And if he starts to win big, he may not leave. So the T. Boone Pickens family, y'all better resource up. Because if you get Will Stein there and you give him everything that he needs, he might be willing to stay long term. But if you give Will Stein like the Penn State job, and then the Texas job becomes available, he gonna head out of town to Texas. That's just where that's where his heart is. So y'all pay attention to that sort of thing. And the other names that need to be very, very high on these coaching searches, Ryan Silverfield at Memphis, done a great job. Maybe he goes over to Arkansas. Or maybe he says, I can stay at Memphis and beat Arkansas with a war chest of money if we can get into a big conference and wait this thing out unless I can get like a Florida job. Then, because that may be a place where he feels like, oh, I can win a national championship there. Because that's just the reality. Now, Virginia Tech, I would consider hiring Mike Vick. He's doing a good job in Norfolk State. He's an adult in the room. He can recruit. He's going to be able to sell it. It matters to him. That is a hire that you can risk. And it's not the same situation like UCLA hiring Deshaun Foster, because he had never been a head coach before and was trying to learn on the job and then under-resourced and made a couple bad coordinator hires and had a short rope. Mike Vick has been a head coach. He is learning. And now this could be an opportunity for him if I were Virginia Tech. Stop trying to get Shane Beamer. He ain't got it going in South Carolina. I know that you love the Beamer ball in the name, but don't do that. Now the UCLA job. UCLA is in a situation where they have to get this hire right. And now you got Tim Skipper doing a good job. Jerry Neuheisel as OC, a guy who turned down other jobs to stay at UCLA because he's true UCLA through. So UCLA has the biggest conundrum on their hands. Who do they hire? Who does UCLA hire? Because if they win, if they go 3-2 in their next 5 games, now assuming that they're going to lose this weekend to Indiana, and assuming that they're going to lose to Oregon, and then if they can go beat Washington, USC, and Nebraska, and go 6-6 and go to a bowl game, how do you not retain Tim Skipper? There was energy in the Rose Bowl this weekend when they played Maryland. Energy. So how do you not hire him? Because you don't want to hire another coach and then force Jerry Neuheisel to be your offensive coordinator, because losing Jerry Neuheisel would be a disaster. So it's all going. So I believe that UCLA's in a situation where they're like, bro, what do we do? We don't want to get rid of Jerry. Tim Skipper's doing a great job. Our offensive coordinator, defense coordinator, both doing great. But we can't make Tim Skipper head coach, can we? Yes, you can. Yes, you absolutely can if the proof is in the pudding, because they're going to be able to recruit and sell. They're going to be like, yo, look at what we're doing. Look at what we're building. Come be a part of this. That's one job that I think could be held in-house. But with all of this being said, and I do believe that Andrew Luck's probably going to keep Frank Wright up there at Stanford. But think about this. Colorado State, UAB, all of these jobs, and all of the other jobs, Penn State, UCLA, Virginia Tech, all of this stuff, they are going to be taking people's head coaches for the most part. So then those jobs have to get backfilled. Where are those going to come from? New Mexico's Eck. UC Davis's Tim Plow. Brennan Marion at Sac State. You're going to get all of those types of coaches that then leave to go take bigger jobs, and then, which is understandable, because when you're making hundreds of thousands of dollars as a head coach, is, you know, $500,000, $700,000, and somebody offers you 5 for 25, that's not a responsible decision not to take it for you, your family, and your assistant coaches. So then there's going to be jobs all over the place. People's coordinators are going to be gone. This is going to be the most meltdown-ish college football offseason of all time. But you guys, make sure that you guys like, subscribe. We're going to keep updating all the time. Peace out. Catch you guys later.